Folks, if you're with me, what is up? Hopefully my headphone stitch is going to be cool today. Alright, so, we're live. What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday, of course, as always. We got Pepe Mache on the side over here. A little bit blocked by the guitar, but Pepe doesn't have anything special for us today besides friendship. Now, folks, friendship very important in our lives. But, you know what's more important is some dope music. So that's what we're going to have today. I can't provide you very good friendship through a camera, now can I? But I can give you dope music. So, what we've been looking at, guys, let's get the fuck into this shit because we've been having a really cool kind of stream month for October. And if anybody's new into this, basically, I've got a project that's called The Bedbugs. Solo stuff, indie, folk, punk, kind of bluegrass sometimes, rock sometimes kind of stuff. And what I've been covering over this past month of October for the kind of spooky season is Sleeping Slab, an EP that I made mostly in my bedroom, minus one song I made in a lesson room with just a phone. So nothing crazy, nothing special, but a very reduced EP, kind of in the spirits of All Hail West Texas from the Mountain Goats, where the Mountain Goats at the point that they released that had started getting used to a lot more of putting out records with full band arrangements, and their production was starting to kind of slowly get on the ramp up to kind of where it is nowadays, really. But they're one of those bands that sometimes will jump around with their style of recording and their production and the things that they do on like a given release. And I always thought that All Hail West Texas was awesome because John Darnell did that solo by himself with an acoustic, and I always on records of mine leading up to Sleeping Slab had done at least one song on a record each that was just me singing and playing an acoustic guitar. And in fact, when I recorded those and when I recorded this EP, they're all just live recordings of me just hitting record and then having the guitar and singing, just like I'm doing for you guys all month and today. So we've been going through songs on this, but let me kind of tease what's coming up first before I get into this. For next week, if anyone was around last week or the week before that, I'd been kind of saying that I Woke Up Dead. I'm covering each track on the song and playing them all live for October, and then on the last week of October, there's a super dope shred that's happening. I'm playing some death metal. I wrote a death metal EP about 2 years ago. It's like 20 minutes long. I'm going to be wearing a costume and shredding the fucking guitar like a maniac. It's going to be dope. So be there for that. That's in 2 weeks. But next week, I thought I had less time in the month. A few times on the stream, even though I have all these notes typed out on my fucking phone, the last 2 weeks on stream before this, I think I was talking about how, hey, we're doing these songs, and I don't have time for I Woke Up Dead, and that's fine because we've already covered it on the stream before, which is the full band arrangement of the song. The acoustic and vocal version on this EP was kind of what was birthed at first, and then these are all of my releases from the Bedbugs. And the latest album, The Centrifuge, I actually took that song, wrote the full band arrangement, I Woke Up Dead, there it is, and I put it on there. So that's already been covered. I've covered The Centrifuge before. The album as a whole, each track, one by one, talking about all this cool art and shit that comes with it too. Even some friends of mine did individual art for each of these individual tracks, as well as the album art and stuff. So go back on the VODs or go to my YouTube channel that's just under my name, Alec Ramsey, and find that shit because it's there. But I've already covered I Woke Up Dead, and so I thought I had it planned, even though I typed these notes out before and this is not true. I thought I had it planned where I wouldn't be doing that song because it's a little redundant anyway to go over it and play the acoustic version when you guys have heard, even though I didn't play the stuff live, you guys have heard the full band arrangement of that song already, and I've already discussed the lyrics. So I want to address that really quick, that next week I am doing I Woke Up Dead, because I looked at the scheduling and kind of by last week's stream at like the very end kind of figured shit out, and I was like, oh, I do have time for it. So I kind of left it open-ended. Like, am I gonna still cover I Woke Up Dead? Am I gonna come up with something else for that stream? Because it's, you know, the slight redundancy in the like covering it again. But I am gonna play that song because I still thought it would be cool to kind of slip that into the docket. First of all, I didn't have any other like, not necessarily that this is all thematic, but it's off of one release, and it's all kind of fucked up, you know, for the Halloween month. And I didn't have anything else that I, like, wanted to lean into that I wasn't already covering for the month. So I ended up telling myself, okay, we're going to stick to the original plan of what's in my notes even. I'm going to play I Woke Up Dead. I'm going to do an acoustic for you guys. It'll be a slightly different version. And then what I actually want to do to kind of help make that stream more worth it for the viewers and, you know, you guys, and see like some cool shit that you haven't already seen before. I'm going to be getting some artwork together. There was actually on the other album, the full-length album, my last album, The Centrifuge, where I had the full band version, I actually had some artwork on that track. And I did the artwork. I just made a shitty, weird little painting. There's like dirt and twigs on it, like physically on it in the paint and stuff. There's a twig right there. But I did this for I Woke Up Dead. But there's some artwork I wanted to show you guys from whenever I was younger. Some of it whenever I was a lot younger. Excuse me. Where I made some really creepy drawings that I want to show you guys, and I figured it would be a good time to slip a few of those in on the I Woke Up Dead stream, as well as an old piece of art of mine that was going to be the artwork for that until I made that painting and kind of decided upon that. But there's even another alternate piece of art that I never showed the stream or anything. So I want to show you guys that and take the time to just kind of fuck around and maybe pull out some old other like weird spooky drawings from the closet. My drawing style and my subject that I draw a lot of, even back into like high school and middle school and stuff, like was just really weird and dark and like creepy, and I thought that would kind of fit this month. So I want to do some of that stuff on next week's stream. Whenever I stream I Woke Up Dead, there's going to be some art stuff to get into as well to kind of help buffer the fact that we've already covered I Woke Up Dead. Cool, we'll do it acoustic anyway. It'll be a little different, and then I'll show you guys some alternate artwork. That should be dope. But folks, before I continue, as per usual, super long preamble, let's get the fuck into this stuff, man. Let's talk about what we're doing. So, Kindling is the track that we're tackling today. It's the longest track on the EP, so I'm going to try to get right into this. And this one is very weird for me. So the song itself is about Dark Souls lore, and it kind of starts from the beginning and sort of goes almost into where the point that you as a player come into Dark Souls 1, actually. And yeah, it's a really bizarre song for me because it's a different key mostly that I play in. It's got some really different like rhyming schemes and stuff I kind of played with. So there's some stuff. I mean, it's even about a video game. Like even the subject is kind of different than what I usually cover. But Dark Souls is literally just such a big influential like series to me as a gamer and as an artist. And I just wanted to do something when I was writing that song. I wanted to do something that I could have a little fun with. And with this EP, I felt like it already had this kind of video game theme with the picture being Sleeping Slab from Oblivion. In fact, actually, I came up with Kindling first. Came up with that picture afterwards. So maybe that's where I made that tie of the video game thing too. But mostly that picture just came from, I was sitting playing Xbox, playing Oblivion one day, and that came up, and I pulled out my phone and took a shitty picture of it, and was like, that's going to be a picture for something. And it ended up being the picture for this EP. But there's some like video game influence on here a little bit. Like I guess that's kind of a bit of something I had fun with on the EP because it was just different. It was me sitting in my bedroom doing it with a phone. I didn't even go as far as to use my Boss Micro BR that I've showed off on stream before, my little recording box that was kind of this big, and the little piece of equipment that I've used to record a lot over the years. Not the exclusive piece of equipment, but but one of the main pieces of equipment for sure. And yeah, I wanted to cover something, and Dark Souls was like my favorite game series at the time, and arguably still is. It's at least one of those top ones, along with the Elder Scrolls, mostly the Oblivion and the ones before, or Oblivion and Morrowind. Really, I don't even think I ever played Daggerfall much. And then there's another one too, Arena. I never played Arena much either. But Kindling is just a song about Dark Souls. It's fucking dope. It's in a weird key. I remember the day I wrote the riff, I was walking around on a kind of hiking trail that's around where I live a little bit, and I had some friends with me, and I sometimes back in the day whenever I like would hike with those guys, I'd bring my guitar sometimes, and I was sitting there just like coming up with riffs while we were just walking through the woods through these beautiful trails and stuff, you know, and this whole chord progression that opens the song up of these that kind of chord progression started getting birthed, and then I just started messing with stuff, and out came this song. So, I mean, I don't think I have much more to say, folks. Hopefully the focus is a bit better on the camera today. I messed with that a little bit, trying to get that better. I've been tweaking ever so slightly each week, just to see if I can get things a little bit better. The lighting seems to be kind of camping in a good spot. Let me know if the sound or the lighting sounds like shit, because I can totally go back and fix that. But kind of comparing it to past streams, it seems better. Trying to compare it to streamers I like to watch, like fucking Eris, you know, avoiding the puddle, Lobos, I mean, just a few guys. I don't watch a ton of other streamers and stuff, but when I do, I watch a handful of guys, and I try to like use them as reference and stuff. So hopefully the lighting, the mic placement on these live acoustic videos with just the one mic is okay. Hopefully all the levels are set and everything. But yeah, give it a shout and like call it out like this is shitty, you know, if something's shitty, because I'll fix it. So, all right, guys. Fucking first of all, cheers for your Sundays from mine and Pepe's. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves, and whatever you're doing, if you came through to the stream, even if I'm just up on the side, or if you're watching the VOD later, or if you're doing any kind of support, or just hang, or even, you know, sharing the stuff around and like really trying to help get me known and what I'm doing, dope. Fucking dope. Yeah, man, I do this. I mean, I do it for you guys. I mostly do it for myself, but I do this for you guys too, to get to be able to show my art in a way that I've never gotten to before. I've always had kind of like, even when I was younger and like writing a lot of this stuff, I always had these kind of like dream scenarios of getting to actually talk about this stuff in depth and play it in person and do a lot of that kind of thing. And with how small and how local my music is and the type of area I'm in, there's not really a lot of getting out and doing this kind of thing. And I just think it's dope that I get to have this venue to do this stuff, just to fucking have down, first of all, but even just, you know, to do it for you guys, anybody that's watching. The few people that watch this stuff, hopefully are just that little bit more enriched in their day by having a fucking hang and talking about some art. So, this is especially to you folks. Cheers, everybody. Happy Sunday. Now, I'm going to get right into this, guys. There's no question, after last week's faux pas at the beginning of the song that I forgot a lyric, there's no question that I'm bad at remembering lyrics. This one has more lyrics. and they're a bit different. The devices are a bit different, and they're weirder for me to memorize. So let's hope that my practice was enough. Let's hope the rehearsal leads up to this in a good way. All right, this is Kindling. There once was a time where Ancient kings would kneel down, praying all of the people in their kingdoms wouldn't weep. Then the destructive, daring dragons fell on stone-bound. Indestructible wings would whip the winds below the keep. Then before them the demon sisters, witches, delve down and retell on the land before their own defeat. And how the kings found the perfect stance to stick with. Oh, Seath, the brother of all foul and ageless, to provide him with requisition for research and men, to find immortality with reckless agents. Once again, the cyclical sea quick to end, an era of disbelief. Prophecies of a hollow, heaping men like undead to discover the key and escape by ravens' feet. So you wandered this darkness, feeling trite and blighted. Maybe you're not the one to lead the flame along. So you carried your blade and built the blood upon it. But little this did the flame to breathe and kindle on. So you stepped through forgotten, lost and empty hauntings. All who enter will feel their soul just flicker and fade away. Inside of me, leading me high, torn at ashes, rising to the call of the lifeline, leading your feet all on earth's high. Breathing within your lungs a signal did lie. An ashen one must never let the world die. hell fucking yeah. Cool. I got through it. There was a part that was really pitchy. Yeah, dope. All right. Happy about that. Okay, so, yeah, man, if anybody knows the Dark Souls series, they know that this game is super huge on not having any, like, really direct road to the lore or the implications of the lore. You've really got to, like, look into, like, reading descriptions of all the items and knowing the areas and certain figures and certain locations and just all of this understanding of this world. Like, they really built a world underneath it, and they really actually threw you as the player into it, kind of like you're a fucking, like, lost soulless thing just wandering around like you are in the game. You really actually feel like that whenever it comes to, like, the lore and the understanding of the world and shit, because they don't spoon feed you shit, and you kind of gotta know what's going on. A lot of it even by, like, research beyond what the game can give you and, like, looking online, obviously, and shit like that. So I wanted to make a song about that, kind of describing some of the parts of the beginnings of how the Souls world came to be and how it is, and then kind of getting you to step into the shoes of kind of the soul that you control in the game when you start, Dark Souls 1, and that kind of shit. So these lyrics are kind of, there's some pinpoints of some large parts in the history of the world before the whole, trying to rekindle the first flame, you as, like, this husk of a soul, walking around trying to do that. So if anybody knows any of this stuff, there's at least, like, knows the game at least, if not the deep lore, then there will be definitely some things you can kind of pick out here, and hopefully this will be, like, cool and enlightening and shit, so that if you ever play it again, or for new people that might jump into the game, that you see this shit and you're like, word, that sounds dope. So the lyrics are, going stanza by stanza here, chunk by chunk, whatever. There once was a time where ancient kings would kneel down, praying all of the people in their kingdoms wouldn't weep. I'll read the next chunk, too, to kind of help make sense of this. Then the destructive, daring dragons fell on, stone-bound. Indestructible wings would whip the winds below the keep. So what those two first, like, little chunks are talking about are before the whole era of the need to rekindle the first flame and the world being thrown into complete darkness, in which we as players find ourselves in the Dark Souls world, like, at that point. Before all that, there's hundreds and there's thousands of years before this that the world existed. And in one of the earlier stages of the civilized world, there were humans and kings. Like, they had hierarchies and shit. And these people lived on this planet fighting against the dragons. They were kind of the opposing evil force at the time. So all of these kings and the men that they led in their kingdoms, that's what that's talking about. There was once a time where these ancient kings would kneel down, praying all of the people in their kingdoms wouldn't weep. And then it describes the dragons. So it's kind of saying, like, these kings who had to harness the power of lightning to even try and fight the dragons, like holy damage in the game, lightning damage and stuff like that. They were using those kind of magics and that kind of prayer to help them fight against the otherwise indestructible dragons, who were, what does it say? The destructive, daring dragons, stone-bound, important line. Indestructible wings would whip the winds below the keep. So it's kind of describing the scene where these dragons are attacking these people, and they're essentially indestructible. Dragons in this universe are made out of stone. They have, like, stone skin, or stone scales at least. They're not made out of stone, but they have stone scales on them. And so at first, before the humans found this kind of advent of prayer to the gods and the holy powers with them and knowing the power of lightning and shit like that, they just couldn't fight back against these stone-covered dragons. They had no chance. And so that's kind of what that's describing. The next stanza says, before them the demons, sisters, witches delved down, and wreaked hell on the land before their own defeat. So that's even saying before them, before all the humans and all the dragons, there was another kind of age of the world in which darkness reigned pretty much everywhere, and there wasn't much of anything like at all that even existed. But these sisters, these witches that come up in the series a lot, and I believe are the sole kind of derivative source of the pyromancy powers that you end up gaining. Quelaag, I know, is one of the sisters. I think there's like 3 main sisters. I'm having trouble remembering all their names right now. But Quelaag, whom you fight in the first one, I believe, and then her sister is like hidden behind a secret wall after the boss fight, even. One of them. And then I think there's a third sister that is elsewhere and something else happened to her. But these witches, they were witches, these sisters, these demons essentially, were kind of envious of the power that the first flame had. Back in these times in the world when it was lit, it was giving all of this life and this energy to the world, and it had so much mystical power in it that the witches, they tried with their dark magic to replicate the power of the first flame, and that's what ended up destroying the world. They replicated such a perfect but evil kind of power that was akin to the first flame, in all these pyromancies that they created, that it threw the world into more darkness, and it destroyed them and morphed them and made them what they are, which is at least Quelaag and the other sister, whatever her name is, behind that boss wall in that area are like big spiders. I'm having trouble remembering what happened to the third sister. And I think there was 3 of them, not 4 or any other number, whatever. But they kind of threw the world into this new darkness at the time, and they kind of snuffed out the first flame and created the world in which then humans would try to crawl out of the ashes, and that the dragons would surface, and that these fights would go on for centuries or whatever. They were the ones that kind of started it all, and so that's what that's talking about there. And then it goes on to say, and how the kings found the perfect stance to stick with. So now we're back in the kind of present times. Oh, excuse me. They're kind of back in present times with these kings and the dragons and shit, right? How the kings found the perfect stance to stick with. Osith, the brother of all foul and ageless, to provide him with requisition for research endless, to find immortality with reckless agent. So, first of all, as you guys can tell with the devices, there is a lot of that alliteration and sort of playing around with that I love. Lots of, bashing you over the head with the same, not just the same letter, but the same sound as well. Or at least the same loose sound, if not exact, brick and chick or whatever, those are pretty direct rhymes, and sometimes the rhymes I have are like very indirect and kind of smudge around each other, but like the way you morph the words kind of sounds the same. So it's a lot of phonetics and a lot of alliteration going on in here, but in slightly different ways than I've really messed with before. Excuse me guys, kind of dragging the shit out through like kings found the perfect stance to stick with. Osith, the brother of all foul and ageless. So there's like a lot of this sort of like generalized morphing. It's like the words are clay and you're sort of forming them as you go into a shape, right? It's not like a perfect clay square. Like here's a rhyme scheme, right? Like I kind of wanted it to be amorphous and feel like it was moving in a bizarre kind of direction, like water almost or something as you're moving through the rhyme scheme of things. I just had a bit more fun messing with the rhyme scheme on this song, especially because the content was kind of already laid out before me as to where songs I write the original concepts for, I'm birthing those concepts and the lyrics. But all of Dark Souls lore already existed before I got to it, so I got to kind of release my mind of that pressure and focus more on the movement of the rhyme scheme. But that whole stanza is kind of talking about, okay, like the kings find out at some point we can't really fight against these dragons. what are we going to do? How are we going to tackle this problem? And the dragons at that time had one of their own kind be born, Seath, who is a boss in Dark Souls 3, I believe. And he was a scaleless dragon. He was an albino, scaleless dragon with no legs. He was kind of mutated into this like blob with like tentacles on it and shit. So a big squishy dragon with no scales. The dragons themselves actually kind of cast him out as like a useless orphan that couldn't fight because he didn't have the stone scales. He was all squishy. So they tossed him out and shunned him as a dragon, as part of their species, and he had nowhere to go. And dragons in this universe are intelligent and can speak and can communicate and, you know, are probably far beyond the intelligence of humans even, like really regal beings and as well as mystical, powerful beasts, you know. And so the humans found Seath, and they decided to basically say, hey, if we give you all of our greatest technologies and all of our greatest research and history as humankind, and we give you freedom in your own space to work with these magics that and these prayer that we've learned and all these things, like anything that we've learned, and we can give you all of our human science and our wherewithal and our materials and everything to work with, right? Like we have the materials you need, so we'll give them to you in trade for your allegiance with us and for you to develop a weapon against these dragons with us. And so in the game, a lot of the blue magic and the crystal magic and stuff like that comes up is actually what Seath created and kind of messed up and you know, of course Seath went mad of power, you know, looking for, in his studies, he looked for the secret to immortality so that he could give himself immortality because he didn't have the stone scales to help fend off attacks. And he wasn't like the other dragons that lived for thousands of years. Like, he needed an answer for his longevity. So, and he was pissed at the dragons that threw him out. And he really didn't care about the humans either. He just used their shit to basically find a secret for immortality. And in messing with that and experimenting with that, I think he ended up succeeding in some twisted way, although as a player you kill him in the game, but you destroy this crystal, and there's a large part of the lore with the crystal magics that he created, and it was kind of his life force. This specific crystal was his life force that gave him the immortality. But along with that crystal, he created all the crystal magics and stuff. So all the weird blue magics and crystal magics and the crystal beasts and stuff that you see in the series, all created by Seath. So that's how mad with power he went, that he kind of created a whole nother twisted kind of sect of the universe, which was fucking insane. Then the lyrics keep going with, once again, the cyclical seed, quick to end, an era of disbelief. And this is just kind of like me breaking from the song as the narrator of all of this and saying, once again, like, this seed that's been planted of evil, that is just cyclical in this universe, that has made this world rise and fall into darkness time and time again. It's just over and over, you know, it's kind of like a metaphor for how man sort of does that to ourselves in some way as well, and it's just kind of mirroring this fact that in real life or in this world or whatever world you're in, that there's always this seed of evil, that cyclical seed that makes things rise and fall again and again. And the era of disbelief that it's kind of referring to is this era of disbelief in, you know, the lack of existence in the world before it. The seed, just as easily as it will birth new life into this lack of existence, this disbelief of a world, it will then birth shit into the world, people and dragons and all that. But along with that birthing of things in the world is also just another era of disbelief, of imagination, of magic, you know, of this wild chaos that just kind of runs over this world, right? Then it keeps going with prophecies of a hollow, heaping, man-like undead to discover the key and escape by Raven's feet. And this is where it picks up in Dark Souls 1, with you as the player. The prophecies of the hollow, heaping, man-like undead, that's you. That's the character that you play, that kind of soulless husk in the game that, for some reason, unlike all the other soulless husks in the world, feels some kind of strong pull toward the first flame and the need to rekindle it, which makes you kind of special. and that's kind of why we follow that undead. To discover the key and escape by Raven's feet, that's literally referencing the first level in Dark Souls 1 where you're stuck in that prison with all the other undead souls and stuff, and you literally have to find a key to get out of the prison, and then that giant raven scoops you up off the cliff and carries you to the where you need to, go to start the game and everything, where you actually kind of start the game, like your hub of survival there. Then it keeps going with, and I love these lines so much. These next few lines, this whole last verse is, I think, one of my favorite verses I've ever written, with just cool rhyme scheme and shit like that. So you wandered the darkness feeling trite and blighted. Maybe you're not the one to lead the light along. That one's pretty obvious. You're wandering through this darkness as this soulless husk, just feeling like useless and directionless, but feeling this pull for some reason in some direction at all points. You're kind of stuck in that soulless world of like, I am like all these other soulless husks where my mind is gone and I don't know what's happening. I'm just kind of moving lifelessly through this world, but there's some energy pulling me, and that's that first flame. But this is saying, this kind of pondering the fact that like you come back to this blighted feeling, which is, Blight Town and everything, and the blight that's in the game. I thought that was kind of cool that you use the word blighted in there. But you come back to this blighted and this smothered feeling constantly of, even though I feel like there's a purpose, there's something drawing me, maybe I'm not the one to lead this flame along or lead this light along this through this darkness, because I don't even know what I'm really doing with it. Then it goes on with, you carried your blade and built the blood upon it. I love that line. But little this did the flame to breathe and kindle on. That's talking about you with your sword. And the way the whole built the blood upon it, that was like one of the most colorful ways I felt like, personally, I described a physical action. I like to take simple things and put them into a certain way so that they seem twisted or off or different or something. And it's basically a fancy way for saying you're going through and just killing everything you see. You're building all of this blood upon your sword. It's adding tenure to your sword and adding structure to your being, that you're killing all of these evil things. You're building this blood upon. It's just metaphoric for all of the building that you're doing for yourself as a character, but also kind of this tearing down at the same time of your psyche and your humanity. You're building all of this blood upon your sword. So then it continues with, so you step through forgotten, lost, and empty hauntings. All who enter will feel their soul just flicker and fade away. Again, a really interesting kind of line. Forgotten, lost, and empty hauntings that you're stepping through. That's kind of describing these locations, these buildings that are abandoned, these churches that are run down, these graveyards that are just swarmed with evil fucking creatures crawling and shit, like all these places you go through they're all just haunting. It's just another haunting. This is a haunt, this is a haunt, this is a haunt. I'm just wandering like empty through these hauntings, and it's just kind of a weird way to describe the world that you're kind of walking through. And it says all who enter will feel their soul just flicker and fade away, and it's kind of describing what's happening to all these souls in these places. Like, if you get stuck here in one of these places for too long, your soul will be gone. So you got to keep moving. You got to keep building the blood upon your sword through these hauntings, and and moving ahead. Then it continues with, seemingly I feel a heat inside of me, leading me high. And then I'll cut this last line off because it kind of bleeds into the next one. That's just talking about the guy building, the character you play, the soulless character you play, building all this blood upon the blade and wandering through these lost and forgotten, empty hauntings or whatever, going through these worlds. And then all of a sudden, he's reminded again from this heat inside of him. That's the flame pulling him, leading him high, leading him above the rest of these soulless things, and giving him purpose and putting him in one step closer to the right direction each step he takes. Then it continues with, toward that feeling, Ash is rising to the call of the lifeline, leading your feet all honor tide. Breathing within your lungs the signal did lie, An ashen one must never let the world die. And all those lines are basically saying that toward that feeling, ash is rising to the call of the lifeline. You know, you're called Ashen One a lot in the series, and you are basically of nothing, of ash. You are soulless, you are a husk. But toward that warm feeling, toward that light that's pulling you, the ash that you are is rising to that call. That's your lifeline. That's your purpose, right? It leads your feet all honor tide. It gives you something that isn't even sure what honor is anymore or what humanity is anymore. It gives you honor, and it leads you through killing these foul things along your way to give you purpose again. And breathing within your lungs, the signal did lie. That's, again, the light, the flame pulling you toward it. You're literally breathing in your existence and this purpose to go toward that flame. And then the last one with an ashen one must never let the world die. That, again, just kind of sums up your sole purpose in the Soul series as the ashen one, at least in this scenario, to go and light the first flame. You can, in the games, go and, like, not light it and become, like, the ruler of the fucking world, basically, and shit like that, if I remember that right. But this is describing kind of that better purpose of the series to help you rekindle that flame. And so you are this ashen one that you can't let the world die, you know? It's basically what it's saying. It kind of sums up with that, folks. That's the lyrics of the song. So it kind of describes some of the beginnings of the world and how the first flame kind of came to be unkindled and how you are carrying yourself through the world trying to kindle it again. Anybody that knows, you know, any veterans of the Soul series knows that there's a lot more lore than that, but I kind of wanted to describe and just, it was like a world setting and a scene setting thing and something I got to kind of dig into some lore and play with, you know, some of the lore that existed, some lore that existed before I got to it, and it was kind of fun to mess with that. So, yawns aside, folks, who gives a fuck? I'm a little tired, man. I stayed up till like 5 a.m. last night, okay? What the fuck ever, man. This shit is dope. And this is one of my favorite songs on the EP. Maybe at times really, I think it's my favorite. This is such a cool song, and I struggled with whenever I put I Woke Up Dead from this EP onto the Centrifuge, which was the full-length album after it, where I did full band instrumentation and not just me and an acoustic guitar. I struggled with not putting Kindling on there as well, because I just love the fucking song so much. And I could argue that the theme of it kind of fit with the theme of the Centrifuge, but you can make connections with anything if you try hard enough. It didn't feel like the right place for a Dark Souls song, but this EP did, and hopefully you guys thought so too, and you should go and listen to this whole EP because it's fucking dope. You should go and listen to my whole discography. In fact, right here, buy the digital discography. I think all my albums are $10, all my EPs are $5. But you save 25% on all that shit if you buy the whole discography at once. 30 bones. Otherwise, if you just really dig a certain release, go buy it, man. You know, it's all there. Go check out my other stuff, just Alec Ramsey on Bandcamp as well, because I do have another page that has other music, and that has been kind of the gear of focus for me for a while. Muckborn is the death metal EP from about 2 years ago that I'll be covering in 2 weeks here on the stream, all costumed up. I'll be shredding some fucking death metal, so that's dope. Philia was an old band of mine with a homie or two when I was younger, and it was my first band that I played guitar and sang on, and I wrote these songs myself and ended up recording them myself later on because me and the homies just kind of used them to jam on and stuff, but we never became like a band that was actually going out and doing anything. I went back at some point in high school years after I had written these songs. I'd written them before, but at some point in high school or maybe like early college or something, I went back and I recorded that shit in my homie's garage. So, I mean, there's some cool stuff there. There's more stuff. I've been working on becoming a better producer and working with equipment and plugins and the process for about 1.5 years now, maybe 2 years, I think, coming up. And through all that time, I've been getting a lot done, but it also feels like I'm taking a step backwards every time because just finding out new things, there's so much out there. But someday, I do have a song written and recorded already, and I just got to get the process down, and I really want it to be right. I've said this before, and if anybody is a frequent on the stream, they'll know this, but I really want this shit to be right, but when it's right, I'll start working with music videos as well with this camera and learning how to do the whole fucking video editing thing. And I'm going to be putting out, like, fresh, new content that's going to be the best shit I've ever put out, the most developed, the hardest worked on shit I've ever put out, and it's going to be here. So check that shit out. Buy some shit, support, go listen on your streaming services, go to my YouTube under my name, Alec Ramsey, go to my Instagram, pocket_Ramses, Ramses. I have exclusive clips that I put up there that are nowhere else. So if you like seeing somebody fuck around in their bedroom and dance around with a guitar or play some drums or do a little singing, shred some keyboard, dance terribly because I don't really know how, you can go there. You can find that shit, dude. You could go and find that shit. It's on Instagram, and I don't put that shit anywhere else, and I just put a new video up like last night. That's pretty dope. Go check this shit out, guys. Thanks for coming. Me and Pepe, both thank you very much. One last cheers to your day, folks, before we go. Let's fucking do this. Guys, thanks for coming if you did. Thanks for watching. Meet up here next week, Sunday, 2 p.m., like every week. I'm here every week, right? So show up next week. I'm going to play I Woke Up Dead for you off of the Sleeping Slab EP. And we're going to get into that and some extra artwork, some little extras for you guys. So be there, and until then, be cool. Later, y'all.